It's just old books that we're grabbing right now, Ben. These are all my books. Do you want to sort between things you want to get rid of right now?
I really like to read. That's my favorite thing. I also like video games as well. A lot of those like cutesy little like I love like Stardew. I love Hollow Knight, things like that. But I was very outdoorsy, I'd say. You know, kind of more like a boy always. You know. So I was at Cal Ranch is where it was.
Okay.
And we were just like walking through like a hallway, like down one of the aisles, and I was like, "Hey, Shelby," you know, like we're like 11 and 12 or something, and I was just like, "Hey, I'd rather be a boy. I wish I was." That was before I even knew what being like trans was. I didn't know that was like a thing. And she was like, "Oh, okay," and then I just like never talked about it again until I was like 15, because I just was really scared because it was the first time I'd ever mentioned that to anyone. And when I wasn't like immediately showered in like praise, I was really scared. I don't know. It kind of scared me and kind of set me back because I was really worried about feeling that way, and mentioning it really scared me because I was like not wanting that to be the case. And in Utah already, there's not very many queer people ever, you know. I've never seen a trans person. I'm so alone. I'm so scared. My mom used to put me in a lot of dresses and a lot of pink stuff when I was younger, but it was not really what I wanted. But when I'm little, it's kind of like, and I'm a tomboy, it's just because I'm a tomboy that I don't want to wear these things, no other reason. It was really hard on me because I wanted to be me, but I wanted to be pretty for her. It was hard because my dad, you know, before I had cut my hair, August of 2020, no, 2019, I had asked him, I was like, "Can I cut my hair?" And he said, "No, only boys have short hair." And, you know, to this day, he still won't call me he or Finn or anything, but because when I first cut my hair, it was because I was, you know, I just wanted short hair. I was still a girl. I was just, you know, I just wanted short hair. But then people started calling me he, and it made me really happy when they did. And I started getting really upset when people looked at me and then knew I was a girl instead of accidentally mistaking me for a boy. But then the more I looked into it and the more I explored the idea of being trans and that kind of stuff, I got more and more afraid. Kind of started to curl up into a ball because I really didn't want all of the hate and the scrutiny that comes with it. It was honestly really scary when I first started presenting more masculinely because people would be so weird when they realized I was a girl, you know, even though I had short hair. It was like, why would you do that? That's so ugly. You were so pretty before. Ben was pretty much the first person I came out to, the first person I told, the first person who got it, so I was able to come out to others and, you know.
I met him in middle school in 8th grade orchestra class. He was a violin and I was a violist. So he would always try and get the second violin part, which sits you next to the violist, so he could sit next to me. And it always made me very happy when that happened, so we would just talk and talk and talk. And we dated once when we were in 8th grade, but, you know, we were in 8th grade, so that didn't end up working out. And then we started dating again sometime in 10th grade, and we've been together ever since. Yeah, so it's been together for a while. We were texting about something, I don't even remember. He used the male shrug emoji. And I was like, alright, well, that's kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. So I asked him, and he was just kind of like, yeah, can you refer to me as he, him? So to me, it kind of felt like it always should have been that way.
With my dad, it was like, I kind of cling to him still because it's like, you're my only parent and I really want this to work. But, you know, before I came out to him, it was really different. He would be very nice, you know, and after I came out, he would, every single store we'd go to, every single restaurant, he would make it a point to say, "Oh, she wants this, she wants that," you know, make it a point that every single person I interacted with had to know that I was a girl, not a guy. So he still loves me, and I still love him, but it's just hard because he doesn't treat me how he used to. Yeah, like when I first started T, he was so passive aggressive. He was just, it was awful. And he texted me one night saying we need to talk. And I was like, okay, let's talk. And he said no in person. So we, you know, talked in person. and he just kind of, got backed me in a corner, got really mad about me being on T, and said, what is the goal of this? He said, he asked about my sex life, and it's like, you're my dad. I don't really want to talk about that with you. I'm 20. And he calls trans people, he says, like, they disfigure themselves, they're gross. It's hard with him. So I wish it was the way it used to be. One of the things my dad would drill on me is, like, he'd ask me, like, well, what's your end goal? And I told him to feel more comfortable in my body. And he told me, that's not enough. What is your end goal? And I said, to feel more comfortable in my body. There's no ideal thing I want to be. There's no person I want to look like. But it's to the point where if I'm not me, I'm not gonna be here. So.
This is poetry then.
I find the most support when I need it from Ben and my friends. Ben I really wouldn't be as far as I am without him. He's the one that helped me change my name and pick it, and he's the one that made me feel like I could actually be loved as a trans person. He was the first person to really know. Okay, so it's kind of a funny origin. So I'm not like a big Star Wars nerd. Do you know Finn, the Stormtrooper? That's the first time I had ever heard that name, and I was like, wow, I really like that. When I was kind of talking with Ben about it, and I was gonna keep my name, but he was like, you should change it, because, if you don't like that, then don't change it, stick with, I'm glad I did, because it kind of felt like I was moving on from that old part of me. Being trans is, I mentioned this before, is not about going from one box to another, it's about being you. So, surgery scares me. I might never get surgeries one day. I wanted to only get that for me, and not because I wanted to fit into the regular trans stereotype. After I started T, I was super happy, but I also started having a really hard time with my self-image because I started feeling like, the freak my dad made me out to be, because I'm like a little, half-breed. I've got female anatomy, but I also have a deep voice, and I look like a guy, and I started feeling really like just something is so wrong with me. Why am I not one or the other? In these last 2 months, I've started to really work on being okay with that, and that I'm not weird for not fitting in the box of your standard male.
But he's come a long way. I think that his self-image is probably better than ever, especially being on testosterone. That really helps. It's really a lifesaver. And then going back to that friend group, having people who will actually call you he, him, and support you through the transition can also really help with your self-image like that.
Really early memory, like within the first few months of us dating, it was when it might have even been before, I can't remember, it was so very long ago, and it was when I had first come out to him. I had sent him a couple texts about it, just like a spam, because I hate calling with these kinds of things. It makes me really nervous, so I'm a big texter when it comes to stuff I don't want to talk about. He responded within a few hours, and I remember I left him undelivered for 5 days because I was so scared. And 5 days later, I saw the messages, and he had unsent them all because he had thought that it made me really upset, and that he was super worried that it would really hurt me. And I remember as soon as he unsent them, I responded, because I was like, wait, no, I don't want him to be upset. I'm upset. No, I'm scared. Don't also be scared. And we had talked about it, and he had been so sweet and so accepting, and had not gotten mad at me for, not answering or not being perfect. And I just really needed something like that at that time. I just finally came out to my boyfriend's mom of, we've been together 5 years, and I have been terrified for those 5 years because I don't really have a mom. And so I kind of, leech onto every single motherly figure I see. And I love her. And she's so good to me. And I just was so scared to disappoint her by being trans. I really, I came out to her, June of this year. And I've known her since 2017, 2018. I was just so scared because I just could not stand the thought of another mom being upset with me. I wanted to be a teacher that could teach kids with the exact same struggle, you know, because I had been in their shoes before. I suck at math. I'm terrible at math. It makes me want to teach it because I want to be able to teach students who also suck at math because I've been there too, you know. I'm trying to work on being a little bit less hard on myself for not looking like a cis man does. I don't need to, because